normal welcomer, David Tripp, is not with us today. So welcome to this space, and people are still coming in. I am just starting us off and with some announcements. Next week, we this is our second messy. No, this is our third of the summer, right? And we have two more after this conversation today. Next week, we are going to do a follow-up of the first session that we did this summer, which we titled Messy Silences. And we heard from students, we heard a lot of feedback that there was a lot of demand for a second session on that topic. There will be a flyer going out this week with more information about that. And then the following week, we're in talks with a group to come in and maybe take a different approach to hosting a conversation on the conflict in the Middle East, in Israel and Gaza. This is a group that works with faith-based communities and hosts conversations, difficult conversations, messy conversations. So next week will be what we're calling Messy Silences Part 2. And then the following week, we hope to work with Newgrounds to facilitate a deeper conversation on that topic. And with that, I think that handles the announcements. I will pass it off to Sarah Beth to introduce our topic today.
Thank you so much, Isa. I'd like to introduce our panelists for the reality of race and reproductive justice. Misha Frazier, who is our new BA faculty in Seattle. She's currently working on her doctoral dissertation and finishing that up in human sexuality at the California Institute of Integral Studies. And she has a master's in educational leadership as well. Her background is to develop programs, or is developing programs that increase a sense of belonging for women and LGBTQ plus students. She takes an interdisciplinary approach to education rooted in critical sexuality studies, Black feminist thought, and revolutionary love. Her teaching to date has focused on the intersections of race, class, gender, and sexuality, and the implications of systemic oppression on health and wellness. Misha is also a two-time NCAA Division I hammer thrower, a certified sexologist, and a spoken word poet. And we're so grateful to have her here today. Her panelist partner is Jessica Posey, who is a playwright, activist, and actress, blending activism with art. And she lives in Chicago, where she can be found writing plays in coffee shops and working as an administrative assistant for Shout Your Abortion, an organization that has connections to Antioch, Seattle. And her works include The Camerons, Boring Black Play, and M is for Medusa, as well as How to Be Black in America. And I highly recommend that you check out her works. Her work centers around magical realism with a social justice lens, exploring how to tell stories without the white gaze, exploring ways to talk about trauma without harming the ones it's written for, and uplifting stories about Black women. Her hope is to use art to help amplify that abortion access should be accessible to everyone. Thank you so much, and please welcome our guests.
Thank you, Sarah Beth. Thank you, Asa. And thank y'all so much for having us. I'm Misha, pronouns are she, her, hers. And I am really excited to have this conversation with Jessica.
Yes, thank you for having me join this conversation. And I'm so honored to be having this conversation with Misha. Really excited.
All right, so just to give a little structure of how we'll run this messy conversation, Jessica and I came up with 4 different essential questions that we'll kind of discuss throughout this conversation. We'll talk for about maybe 25 or so minutes, and then we'll have an open conversation for everybody to be able to join in or ask questions and stuff. So we'll try not to go as deep as we went when we were having our planning session, because we ended up bringing up a lot of different topics that were intersecting with reproductive justice in general. But we'll try to do our best to be kind of concise. So for starters, our first question is, how would you define reproductive justice? Did you want to start, or did you want me to kind of go into it?
I could start. Yeah, so reproductive justice isn't just, just like, oh, everyone should be having abortions. It's also about like the right to have a child, to not have a child, and to parent them in safe and healthy environments. And it came about, Loretta Ross coined the term, and it came about because a lot of abortion talk and abortion rights talk was centered around just white women, because they kind of like stole it. It was so it's kind of based on the fact that every issue is kind of intersectional. Audre Lorde has this really good quote where she says there's no such thing as a single issue struggle, because we do not live single issue lives. And that's especially true for women of color and Black women, because not only do we face, like, oh, should we have a kid or should we not have a kid? But we're also facing, like a lot of issues that affect our choices, which is what like me and Misha will get into when it comes to race and reproductive justice. And then, yeah.
I definitely align with that. I was thinking of Loretta Ross too. It automatically comes to mind when I first start thinking about reproductive justice in general. But I also think how some folks do tend to believe that reproductive justice is solely centered around like pro-choice or pro-life debate, and that's just period, end of the sentence. That's what reproductive justice is. But it's not necessarily that simple. I think the pro-life, pro-choice debate in and of itself isn't that simple as people try to make it seem. But I think that we have to also consider a lot of the other factors. Like you said, they're intersectional, but like all of those interconnected problems that can arise for folks as a result of the other structures that are present. So when we talk about reproductive rights, it's not only like Roe versus Wade, but it's also the legislation that's put out about gender affirming care and being able to access that is also related to individuals like the trans and non-binary community and how they're supposed to survive and exist within folks within society. And I also think about the laws that are like the anti-LGBTQ plus ones in general, because as you mentioned, some of the 3 tenets that reproductive justice is based on include the right to have a child, the right not to have a child, or the right to parent children in safe and healthy environments. And like that safe and healthy environments piece is something that like I think is really, really critical and key to like advancing reproductive justice and acknowledging that reproductive justice is inclusive of, like Audre Lorde said, all of our interconnecting struggles. And I think that ever too often we tend to only try to focus attention on abortion or like hyper fixating on abortion as one of the tenets of reproductive justice. But overall, I think let's see, social economic status and classism plays a huge role in reproductive justice, as well as the way that these different policies and minimum wage and stuff like that ends up impacting a person's ability to raise a child or parent a child in a safe and healthy environment overall. So I think that there's a broader, expansive definition of reproductive justice, or things that need to be considered when we talk about reproductive justice in general, opposed to solely focusing on if a person should or should not be able to have a child or to bring life into this world.
Yeah, right. Because there's like a lot of like we have another question. Am I good to segue? So I felt like that was a really good
Go for
segue,
it.
like our next topic. But yeah, because like I feel like that's very important with that intersectionality, because abortion access looks different for all of us. Reproductive justice looks different for all of us. Like, it looks different for white women, women of color. There's things like religion, sexuality, gender diversity, race, how you were raised up financially, and like mental health. And that really impacts your relationship with reproductive justice. Like, I know I grew up in like a small town where like education, like we didn't know anything about abortion. I didn't know nothing about abortion. All I knew is that abortion was wrong because I was raised Protestant Christian. And it was like wrong to abort a baby. So I was, raised on that. And then I would like grow up seeing just like kids my age, and I was in middle school and they were pregnant and they didn't know that they had a choice, you know what I mean? And even now with like there's also like financial upbringing. Sometimes abortions are expensive, and like people can't afford abortions all the time, you know what I mean? So there's the gap between like finances and then like your religion. Like, imagine being raised in a house where they're like, oh, you're gonna go to hell if you have an abortion. So you're scared and you don't know what the fuck the crap to do, you know? Then also, yeah, I think like the points of my identity being raised in a Christian household, being raised in like a poor small town and not having that education for abortion. I think reproductive justice is really important because it's one of the, you know, issues that intersectional issues that are that reproductive justice activists really fight for, which is like making sure that everyone has equity and they all have this choice to have a child or not have a child in a safe and healthy environment. Because sometimes you don't want to have a child, you know, like I grew up too, like seeing like people that look like me get shot, you know what I mean? And like bringing in my theater thing here, but like August Wilson even has like one of his characters do a monologue where like the woman had an abortion and a man was like mad at her. And she's like, bro, I just saw all of these little Black boys get killed. I don't want to bring my child into something like that. So like you said, Misha, it's not all black and white, you know what I mean? Like it's a very like gray, complicated area when it comes to pro-choice and pro-life and all of that, all of those things. It's we do what we want with our bodies, especially Black women. We've never had autonomy over our bodies in history. So we do what we want with our bodies, and make sure that there is support given to us, just no matter what we do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You started making the wheels turn in my head for real. So many, like on quite a few things that you named. But I'll start with like just specifically talking about like my identities and how it kind of influenced my relationship personally. Because even though we both are Black women, identify as Black women, we're not monolithic, so we can't speak for everybody. But I can say with my identity specifically, I'm born and raised in the South. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I have a Christian or religious background. Was raised in a little Baptist church. Everybody knew everybody. So I definitely connected with some of those cultural scripts and narratives around shame as it relates to one, just sexuality and sex in general. So then the possibility of like you being able to be in control of the decision you make on your body, rather you sinned and you went and you messed around and got pregnant, and now you have to figure out what to do from there or not. It carried a lot of shame because folks are like, one, you weren't supposed to be doing that in the first place, and now you did. You have to just accept this blessing, and then make it work. And I do also remember growing up where like I had a lot of friends who weren't as educated around sexuality or comfortable talking about sexuality with people, or didn't have resources, especially like sex positive, accessible resources, or even folks that they could have real conversation with without feeling shamed or punished or demonized in some way, shape, or form about their desires. And so then they just went and started engaging in sexual exploration and stuff like that on their own. And some of them did end up getting pregnant at really young ages. And now it's like, if we would have had those resources to be able to educate ourselves around healthy sexual practices, or different ways that we might be able to prevent ourselves from reproducing or something like that, maybe we would have had different outcomes. And I think that people forget that that is also a part of reproductive justice, ensuring that individuals have access to quality, accurate, relevant, and sex positive sexuality education resources are ways of being able to help individuals make the executive decision on if they are in an environment that's safe and healthy enough to potentially raise a child or to parent a child. But it also allows them to make executive decisions, like you said, about my own body on if I'm going to have a child or if I'm not going to have a child, or if I'm going to take these preventative measures in order for me not to even potentially get in that position. I also very often name this for folks who don't know me, you know now, I have heterosexual privilege or femme presenting privilege, but I am a lesbian, and that also is a thing that comes into play when I think about reproductive rights or my relationship with reproductive rights in general. Um, very often folks, and like I said, I have femme privilege, but there are some lesbians that like are parents and have a desire to be a parent and to carry a child. And not even all just women, because there are also some non-binary folks and some trans men that still have the ability to reproduce and they want to and they want to carry and they may actually do that. And then when we're navigating these medical systems or these healthcare systems that are not inclusive and that are misgendering folks or that are consistently allowing their own views, values, and beliefs about other people's identities and experience to now bleed over into their ability to do their job and to offer quality care to their clients is another issue of reproductive justice, because just like a cisgender femme presenting heterosexual woman should be able to walk into a space and get care, quality care, if they are pregnant or if they're deciding to terminate a pregnancy or anything of that nature, other folks beyond those same gender identities that have the ability to birth or to become pregnant should also have access to those resources and not have to experience being misgendered or have to experience this judgment of somebody, you know, looking at them like they're a science project or not offering compassion and care in the way that, you know, they would to a cisgender heterosexual woman. And so I think that that also kind of impacts my relationship with reproductive justice. And it could very well be because, like, I have masculine presenting people in my life that have carried and that have shared their trauma stories about the things that they've had to endure while they were carrying a child and just trying to seek care the same way that any other person would. Um, so I think that that definitely impedes it or becomes another component that ended up influencing my relationship with reproductive justice. It also makes me want to advocate more because I'm talking about people, and like I said, I benefit from femme presenting or heterosexual privilege. So I don't necessarily have those same experiences as folks, but because I believe in and I support reproductive justice, and I know that these issues are intersecting and a part of it, I'm going to use the platform to name and to speak about those things as well. So I think that that was a big piece of how it influenced my relationship with reproductive justice. I also was from a low socioeconomic background too. Shout out to my mama for birthing 5 of us and doing the things. But even in that space, I wonder sometimes if it's like, all right, can I scrape up however much I need in order to potentially terminate this pregnancy, even though I'm already taking care of all of these folks? Maybe right now I don't have that, so I'm just gonna bring this life into the world. It's not to say that's how my siblings got here, you know, I love them, but I will say that that is a thing that I know some folks may have had to weigh and had to really debate. And don't even get me into started on legislation, because I'm we're gonna try to save that a little bit, but with differences or changes in legislation, I'll also say that that ended up impeding the way that people have access just to resources in general. Let's see, another component I'm thinking of my identity that relates to reproductive justice. Um, oh, and I'm comfortable here, y'all, so I'll disclose a few things also just to be an advocate. There are some folks that deal with different conditions like polycystic ovarian syndrome or things that may end up leading towards fertility or needing for fertility treatment or support and things of that nature. And we don't often think about the financial obligation that comes into play when a person deals with these just biological natural functions that end up impeding or potentially making it a little bit more difficult for them to be able to have a child or, you know, not to have a child. And with our healthcare system being as it is structured, it becomes a privilege for some people who want to be parents who have the either really, really good insurance or a really, really good job and income, or they ran across something to where they're able to afford these additional treatments that they may potentially need in order for them to actually get pregnant. And that is, I think, another layer of reproductive justice rights, and just advocating for people to be able to potentially access these different potential tools or resources for them to be able to potentially have a child if they so choose to, or be able to parent a child if they so choose to. I also talk about like adoption, but I won't go that far because I had the mic for a long time. But even thinking about these laws that are related to adoption, I remember when I was living in Texas, I read an article about a lesbian couple where one wife carried the egg, the embryo of her partner, and then gave birth. But the partner who was biologically the mother, did not get the rights as a mother, because in Texas at this time, the mother was the person who gave birth to the child. It didn't even matter that like the person had the DNA. It was very weird. But then the person who had the DNA, like that mother ended up having to go through this process of adopting her biological child. It was very confusing. But I think it's because we have legislation that doesn't take into consideration that all families are not cis man, cis woman families. It's not like it's all this one particular way of being able to curate and create an actual family. And I think that because our legislation hasn't quite caught up to the way society actually functions or acknowledges as people or actual structures, it becomes a little bit more complicated for folks to be able to navigate. And again, I think it's layered in reproductive justice because it impacts a person's ability to be able to parent a child, again, in a safe and healthy environment. I'll drop the mic now or leave it alone now.
No, you're absolutely right. Because I think a big part for me is safe and healthy environment, because you have like you said, like trans people who still have uteruses, and the stuff that they face trying to like have a child. Again, I'm not an expert on it and I won't speak for it. But I will say that like you hit the nail on the head, that I don't know, it's like the more like marginalized your identity is, the harder it is when it comes to reproductive health, especially you add being like a Black person with a uterus, and then you have like the mortality rate for that is like sky high. You know what I mean? Like you have to like factor that in. We get a lot of stories at Shout Your Abortion, where people have to terminate their pregnancies because they don't have the money for a kid, or like they find that there's going to be issues with the child that they cannot afford because of the medical history of this country. And it's always like really heartbreaking to see when someone wanted to have a child, but the medical prices, and or they're like, oh, I could die, so I can't have this child. And then it's like, if they had the access that rich people, like white rich people, are able to have, like, they will be able to have a kid. So yeah, I really love, that's why I really love the umbrella of reproductive justice over just like, oh, I'm an abortion activist. I like to be more like, no, like I advocate for reproductive justice, because it isn't just like, oh my God, we should be able to have a kid. Like, because I just feel like that's such a white woman issue, because like they, like it's just kind of like they don't have to account for all of these things unless they do have certain issues. I forgot, that was a big word you said, and I'm not a medical person. So whatever you said, unless they have that. Because you see with like Black people and Black people with uteruses, there's the financial, there's like there's mortality rates, and it's just,
It's kind of layered injustices
yeah,
that
so layered. So
kind of
I like
make it.
how inclusive it is. It's not just cis, white, and straight. It's everyone, that
Yeah,
is not cis, white, and straight. And I love how it advocates for a safe and healthy environment, because like there's also a thing, like I remember My sister, like I grew up also like low income, and my sister, she has 3 kids. 2 of them are with me now. So if y'all hear someone yelling, it's them. But they like she got pregnant in high school, and I remember like we were just like, oh crap, what are we gonna do? Like, how are we gonna take care of these babies? You know, we don't have money. We didn't even know about abortion. We didn't even think about abortion. And even if like I remember I was in high school when she was pregnant with her 3rd child. And my niece I love very much, but I was like, sis, you can't afford this. You can get an abortion. I got ate up. They flamed me so bad. So it's just like the education around abortion. Like I remember we would hear horror stories that we would die, like people die getting an abortion and things like that. And they don't know there's safe ways to get abortions, like abortion pills, you know what I mean? That there's actually accessible ways to get it now. And of course, we'll talk about legislation, how sometimes even those safe ways aren't even safe depending on your identity. But yeah, get ahead of myself.
I also, let's see, we wanted to talk a little bit about how reproductive justice organizations or just efforts in general could decenter whiteness. Because although reproductive justice was started, by a Black woman, I want to name that very often folks that come in, and I sometimes refer to these folks as like well-meaning white people. It's like you have like the very best of intentions, which is great, but sometimes it ends up overshadowing the voices of the folks that you intend to support or serve in some way, shape, or form. And so I think that very often the Black voices of the Black women specifically get a little lost in the sauce as it relates to the actual movement or reproductive justice efforts in general. So what are some different ways that organizations could decenter whiteness in reproductive justice efforts?
Yeah, I think like one of the things that we talked about, and I think it's really, really important because that's like the foundational start that white people can do to work is acknowledge white supremacy and just consider how like Audre Lorde was like, it's not a single issue thing, it's like layered impact on communities, like poverty, disability, education, geographical location, which is what we talked about with our identities. You know what I mean? Like we talked about being from low income areas, you know, and not having that education, getting fear mongered by religion, about them saying, oh, this is a sin. And just like where you're raised in poverty, like not even being able to have an abortion and thinking that you can't. Like I think we talked about this being like $300 for an abortion or $500, something like that. Like, girl, you got that? And it being like, oh, it's easier to like raise this kid than scrounge up that much money, because this economy right now, inflation, like even that, like I feel like I would just I just have the kid because I don't even have $500 if I didn't know that there were like other safe and effective ways. But yeah, acknowledging that kind of like you said, that kind of like Black women that have started this, the reproductive efforts have kind of gotten lost in the sauce, you know, like well-meaning white people, you know, they want to help with abortion, they want to help with reproductive efforts, but you kind of have to decenter yourself. And a part of that is acknowledging the ways that you have infiltrated this space that has been meant for Black people and people of color with uteruses, and how we can help center them. Another way is put your money where your mouth is. Just, you know, zip and just give us some money. Give the existing people some money so they can do the work, is another amazing thing to do, because I work for a predominantly white abortion organization, and we use the framework of reproductive justice. But I think we still have some work to do, because again, it is kind of like a, you have to, like, we acknowledge it, but okay, what are we gonna do next? You know what I mean? We know white supremacy is a big thing, you know, that is impacting these communities, and white people, no matter what, like add on to it. it's like that getting like white people are inherently racist, and you have to do the work to decentralize that. So I think like practicing values, like, having safe and welcoming environments for Black people in these spaces, the Black people that are in these like mainly white organizations, just like making sure that they are welcomed and happy, and that they are encouraged to do the work. And when Black people speak up in these organizations, you listen, you know, because it's kind of like, and making sure that we're paid for the labor as well. Like when you're bringing in like a consult or something, you pay them, and you listen to them, and you actually implement those structures, because that's gonna help decenter it as well.
I'll even take that a step further. As far as like, yeah, you want to pay the consults that you call in to be able to get that support. But like, even when you go into communities and you're doing research on these communities and you're asking folks to talk to you about what they've experienced and what they would like differently, you're using that time. Like you get paid. If anything, let's try our best to go in and show that you value people with like those financial that financial compensation within the community, because that does make a difference. And you mentioned things like some other ways. Like, I think earlier you talked about, you was like having to like crunch up the coins to be able to potentially have an abortion, and that like brought up a memory, because I vividly remember when I was younger, one of my friends got pregnant, and I'm like, I don't know, girl, we won't pass the hat around, we won't make a trip, like look, we'll figure it out. I got some points. We we can
Right.
make this thing work to
Go fund me,
access to what you need. Now I'm glad that there have been a lot of advancements, just like medically and with technology and things, to where now you might not have to go specifically to a doctor to be able to have that, but it also came along with so much restriction within legislation that ends up impacting the way that individuals can or cannot access it, or even what those consequences may be for asking the wrong person the wrong question. And that can also end up impacting people's relationship with reproductive justice, or even their ability to make a decision around having a child or not. I also think about geographical location, especially since Roe versus Wade got overturned. It's like, okay, how are we going to be able to increase access to, reproductive justice efforts and abortions for folks that are in the South specifically? I'm from New Orleans, and like, Louisiana, New Orleans is beautiful, and Louisiana has some very interesting laws and legislation and restrictions for folks in general. And so being able to see how are you going to be able to increase access to those reproductive, or ensure that reproductive rights are being respected for people within those like smaller towns, or those people who can't necessarily afford to say, I'm gonna take a week off of work so I can go take a trip to California or one of those places where it is legal, and then be able to go home. That's where we talk about those layered impacts. It's a whole thing. Don't even get into like mental health and disability and what that can feel like for people, or at navigating like the grief that they may have to hold because of having to have or make a very, very heavy decision, and potentially not even being able to express that to other people with these laws that are in place. So it might end up becoming additional issues for folks. And so I think ways that organizations could potentially decenter whiteness in their efforts, with all of the different factors we just named in mind, include supporting the folks that are out here doing this work already. And I mean, like, there are so many organizations, there are so many conferences, there are so many like Black-led and Black woman-led specifically folks and places and organizations and conferences that are happening, where you can go and learn more just about reproductive justice in general, and learn specifics around like what can you do as an individual to be able to support the efforts, rather than trying to take, like you say, put the money where the mouth is. Let's say there's one big pot of reproductive funds, rather than like divvy it up 16 different ways to 16 different organizations that have these different focuses that are all, supposed to be advancing reproductive justice overall, especially within like the most marginalized communities. Get behind those that are supporting these communities that have historically been underserved and neglected within society. And it's not to say that all Black women are just underserved and neglected, but I will name that statistics show what the statistics show. but there are a bunch of different organizations that are there. How about you do some fundraising for those organizations? How about, you know, you go fill out some grants and things like that, and then partner with these specific ones that where you're able to kind of maximize those efforts within the spaces where they're heavily needed the most. And I know we have like a bunch of them that we're willing to share, and I think we're getting ready to have to open the conversation up in a second. So I think we could just, you want to just bounce off a couple of them that we have?
Yeah, we have a lot. Yeah, I just want to hit on too, like how you said, money, but also time and resources. Like there's so many ways that you can support. Like you can even like something that we love to do like at my job is that like we're like, girl, you're an activist for just telling one person that you support this. You know what I mean? So like these places that we're gonna tell you guys, like you can go on our website and get a sticker and just put that on your laptop, and then you can just like be at a coffee shop typing and somebody can be like, oh, what's that? And then there you go. Like you're supporting an already existing Black organization, because that could be a millionaire. That could have been Beyonce and she saw your laptop and she about to give like $5 million. Like who knows? But some could be my favorite Sister Song. That one where they're having a Let's Talk About Sex conference in DC in August, and I'll be attending, and hopefully Misha will be there too. Um, there's Black Mamas Matter. There's
Love Black Mamas Matter. Black Mamas Matter, they I think right now they're hosting like, I think it's Women's Infertility Week. Don't quote me on that, but they're sharing a lot of information about fertility and about infertility, especially as it relates to Black women. They're having like lectures and things like that on their Instagram Live. You can follow them on LinkedIn to also get some connected to some of the things that they're talking about. But they do a lot of work around Black women's mortality, around supporting doula and midwife development and trying to get funds to where we're able to have those folks just kind of present to be able to support individuals who might not be able to just have access to those different resources in general. But yeah, I love me some Black Mamas Matter.
And that's so important. You touched on it. Oh, I wish you could talk longer, because like Black doulas are so important. Black abortion doulas, Black birth doulas, because you want somebody that looks like you. Like reproductive health is just such a personal topic for everyone. Like, yeah. And I could say like, it's not easy to become one, but it is easy. Like you go through a training and you could just like give your services for free to help your community, and community access and coming together is also a really good way to help organizations and really further safe spaces for people of color with uteruses. Yeah, and there was the Chicago Abortion Fund, there's Black Women for Wellness. And speaking of doulas, here in Chicago, we have the Chicago Volunteer Doulas. And they also, like Black Mamas Matter, kind of like work to eliminate morbidity and mortality among Black birthing people. And they're an organization that I've been wanting to be connected to for a long time. So this is inspiring me to like put my money where my mouth is and go DM them and see what I can do to help. And yeah, there is the free route. Oh yeah, did you want to say something? I'm over
Say,
the
that Black Women for Wellness, they're actually having a reproductive justice conference that's coming up, and it's in LA for those who are in LA that might be interested in it. I'm trying to remember when their conference is. I think it's in August. Yeah, I was just about, thank you, Jacqueline. I was just about to drop their website in the chat. But yeah, they're having a reproductive justice conference in LA. If folks are interested in finding out more what some of those grassroots efforts specifically are, and just to be able to get connected to it as well. But that's what I was naming.
I think I forgot one. There's the Black Women Prep 2 campaign.
Oh yeah. So
really
there's a sexuality educator. I'm sorry for jumping into
Oh no,
it.
I just said, which is really important. Yeah.
There's a sexuality educator by the name of Mystique Woods. She started this campaign called Black Women Prep 2. And it's basically trying to encourage Black women to explore PrEP. And for those who don't know what that is, it's a medication that you can take to help prevent you from potentially contracting HIV. And so oftentimes it's promoted to LGBTQ plus men or men who have sex with men. And people forget that, the rates for HIV are rising amongst multiple communities, including Black women. So her campaign primarily supports Black women and potentially exploring that as well. And I also look at that as an intersection of reproductive justice because it's related to sexual health, which ends up impacting the, again, safe and healthy environments where you're able to parent a child, as well as your right to either have a child or not have a child. So that was another resource or another campaign that individuals might want to be able to look into to support reproductive justice as well.
That's a really important campaign because my mom, she had HIV. And so like that could have also been like in her mind when she was like, oh my God, I'm pregnant with these kids. What am I going to do? Am I going to pass that on to them? So I think that's a really important campaign because in my town, we have like the highest HIV rate because of lack of education. And that's also a part of reproductive justice and making sure that there's like people know about safe sex and they know just the ways they can prevent certain things from happening. So
Definitely. I also have a couple books that I pulled off my bookshelf if people want to explore them. One, just Reproductive Justice, an introduction, which is by Loretta Ross and Ricky. I never say this last name right, Solinger, I think. I can put that in the chat for you. There's another book called Black Women Taught Us, An Intimate History of Black Feminism by Dr. Jen Jackson. This is just another useful tool for those who just want to learn more about Black women's history or experiences, and to just get a perspective of Black feminism in general. And then, like I mentioned, reproductive justice is often just centered or focused around abortion sometimes. And I wanted us to start using a broader perspective when we consider the intersections of these other identities and systems that also interconnect with reproductive justice. So I like this book, Rethinking Sexual Citizenship, because you cannot have reproductive justice without an individual having autonomy and gender freedom for every human being. So by exploring sexual citizenship in general, it can also help us kind of expand our thoughts around what reproductive justice does and could look like. And I'll put those books in the chat too.
Thank you, Misha. We can add all of these resources to our LibGuides. So thank you, Jacqueline, for posting those for us. And I want to thank both of you for your ideas and your experiences and your knowledge that you've shared with us so far. We've got already 3 folks that have posted questions for us in the chat. Russell, would you start us off?
Sure. First, I will thank both of you, Misha and Jessica, for your presentations. Can you all hear me okay? Let me just start there.
Yes.
And this is so timely since we are just heard today from our vice president, soon to be presidential candidate, soon to be president of the United States, talking about these very issues in Delaware. Just before I came here, I was there. And so I threw my question in the chat. I just want to hear from you about the kinds of conversations you are having with the administration, with Vice President Harris's office, even prior to this situation happening right now. What you are calling on them to do and say, and the language in these platforms we're talking about, potential legislation that she says she's promising to sign when she's president in January. So I wonder if you could share a little bit about that. And Jessica, my understanding, you're in Chicago? Mm-hmm. So you're going to be knocking right on her door because she's going to be there real soon. She's going to be there very soon.
So now I wish that Vice President Harris listened to anything I had to say, only because I can't call her up and talk to her directly. So that's why I'll say I don't know. But the things that I do put out there and the ones that I advocate for, like I said, or like Jessica and I suggested, you should listen to, or we encourage folks to align with the organizations that are heavily committed to doing this work. That way the asks are similar. It's not like we're trying to stretch the funds or the resources extra thin. We really just want equity. We would like the ability to make executive decisions about our bodies, and not fear the consequences, or not be penalized by what may potentially happen or what may potentially occur. As far as language and what that looks like in these spaces, I can speak again for myself because not everybody believes that certain priorities are as important as other folks do. And I think that when we're using language to talk about reproductive justice, it's important for us to make sure we are acknowledging the intersection of LGBTQ plus IA rights as well. And so I think it's important for there to be alignment amongst how we describe individuals that have the ability to give birth, birthing people, maybe. But I also know that society and cultural scripts will cause us to continue align with and prioritize the language women within that space. And I know that it can get kind of nuanced as well because it is a women's rights. It's not to take away from that at all. But I do know that some folks do feel as if you use different language and you're no longer talking about women, that it can start to erase women's presence in these spaces. And so I think that there are a lot of dialogue that just need to happen in smaller spaces. So we're able to get on the same page as far as do know that just because I say birthing people, I am not excluding certain community members or not. So I think we need to get on the same page with language, and to advocate and let people know that reproductive justice rights are inclusive of all of these other intersecting oppressions as well. Reproductive justice is, like I said, LGBTQIA plus rights, is protecting Black lives, is increasing access to healthcare for folks, is being able to make sure people have the ability to parent a child if they so choose to in a safe and healthy environment. And if we aren't prioritizing what safety looks like in this American society, then how could we call ourselves prioritizing reproductive justice in reality? Did that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I would just encourage you to use your voice during this time with your congresspeople, your senators, your local officials, to get the message out to these folks, because she is adamant about what she's doing. And I'm realizing here, Asa, that we are recording this. So that means Misha's message and Jessica's message is recorded, so it can be shared with those other rooms, right? So they can hear directly from what our sisters are saying here. So that's something that Antioch can do if we choose to. Antioch can do that and share that with those campaigns. So this language gets into some form of legislation. Or Clarence might be able to knock on somebody's door. I know that he's in here today. He knows folks all around this country. So anyway, thank you. I will stop there.
No problem. I want to add that I definitely encourage folks to tap into of course, reaching out to their local legislation and being able to hold some of these different dialogues and conversations, but also talk to your friends, talk to the people you're sitting at the lunch table with, talk to the people that you, kind of like Jessica said, put the sticker on your laptop and maybe it'll bring up a conversation in a different space where you're able to just start normalizing and advancing these dialogues about reproductive justice in general. Because if it's you and your neighbor and your cousin and all of their children and all of these other folks that are all contacting legislation and consistently advocating for the change that we want to see, it may potentially add more pressure to folks. I also encourage social media as a resource as well. I know I'm on my social media pages sharing all of Black Mamas Matter work. I'm sharing Sister Songs conferences. I'm telling people who don't even know half the things I talk about or do for a job. Like, hey, you want to look at this? Like, you might want to go vote for this. You might want to, not for it, but, look at this thing that's being up on the ballot kind of things. But being able to make sure you're consistently sharing the resources and the tools and the perspectives that some of these organizations that we've shared are other ways for you as an individual to be able to support reproductive justice rights and align with many of these organizations that have been on the ground for decades advocating for reproductive justice. It's not like this concept is something that's brand new, that, we are trying to make something, pull it out of a hat and say, this is how we want to structure it. No, there are people who have dedicated their lives to this work. And if we want to see it prevail, we should continue to advocate and advance their narratives.
Yeah, and like what Misha said, like harping off what she said as well, like all of these orgs, like they're doing the work for us, like everyday people, you know what I mean? Like they have things that we can do as just like everyday people to advance this narrative and this message. I know like the organization I work for, they literally have like resources like down to the T, things you can do. Plan C has things, Sister Song has like toolkits. So like even something as simple as like sharing a post is important, especially during this time. And again, just like harping on like the language and just being loud about it. Like, and sometimes like being loud about it works. Like, just keep talking and talking, talking. And I know on like social media, they say bullying work, like bully these people, like tell them like you need to do this. You suck because you're doing these things. So, you know, like we may feel like we're not in power, but we are so powerful when it comes to creating change. If that's one thing that making art and just being raised as like a Gen Z, like we have more power and our voice than we think. So yeah.
Thank you both. Thanks, Clarence.
I was going back to try to find the other questions.
Jacqueline had something. I thought I had seen Clarence. But Jacqueline is next. Jacqueline, do you want to share your question?
Yeah, hi. I just I'm so glad you guys are here. And but when I look at the conversation and when I hear the words and everything, I grapple with the idea that waiting for someone to do the right thing, and especially when it comes to recent events and our country's administration. And it just seems that our health care system itself is somewhere where we should be able to have more power, as much as, you know, nurses and doctors are also being affected. Their families are being affected, but their jobs are being affected by this. I just wondered why we're not taking more time to lean in to what they're offering us. And I just wonder if there's something more that we could be doing there, because I don't know how many people go in and you get your paperwork and you're doing your paperwork at the hospital and they give you all this stuff to sign and they just tell you, sign here, sign here, sign here. But when you read those documents, you are signing all of your rights away, regardless of what the government is doing. And I think that's terribly unfair. If you sat there, I know I don't want to be Loretta Lax. I don't want you to be able, as Cedar Sinai, to take my cells and use them, like you said, without my consent or without compensation if there is a consent. I have a problem with that. And so I'm going to read the small print. And I've literally had nurses and, receptionists, some think it's comical that you actually take time to read because they know what you're signing. And they will laugh when you get to a question and won't sign it. But then they won't offer you care either if you don't. So then you're on this search. So I'm just wondering how much there's other areas that we could be leaning into, what those might be, insurance companies, medical facilities, what are those other places that we could be holding them accountable?
Jessica, you want to take it or you want me to jump in?
I can try.
Okay.
That was heavy, but that was so necessary to say, especially for reproductive health and specifically for Black people, because reproductive health has a lot to do with Black people. And we have a strong distrust of the medical system and healthcare because it has failed us for too long, I think one thing that you said that resonated with me is that you're tired of like just relying on people to do the right thing. And that really spoke to me because it often feels like the people that we elect, the people that are caretakers, that our doctors, our nurses, they just, it's so rare that we get advocated for in the healthcare space, especially Black birthing people. Trying to find the right words, but I think one step forward is speaking up about it, you know, sharing your experience with the healthcare system, um, shedding light on what happens in the healthcare system. Something I learned is that the more you share your story and the more you're transparent about, the more that people are transparent about how they're being treated, the more people are scared to act that way. You know, anybody can be a monster in the dark, you know what I mean? But it takes a true person, it takes a true evil person to be a monster in the light. And I think the more that we shed light on these discrepancies, and we've done a bunch of that, we've always shed light and people still get away with things. And I think it really is rooted in white supremacy. I always think about Venus, which was the first woman, you know, like she had this voluptuous figure and people just like prodded at her and treated her like a freak show, you know, and like Henrietta Lacks and just like the Tuskegee experiment, you know what I mean? So just shedding light on that. I just read a book that was inspired by these two girls who were put on birth control pills, birth control medication. It was called Take My Hand. And no one paid attention to these girls until a Black woman spoke up for them. And then that is when legislation and laws got put into place to protect Black women and Black people when it comes to unfair control over their bodies. Another thing as well, like I want to harp on like the healthcare system. I feel so hopeless when it comes to it too, because sometimes like people are like I always like to say, just put more people of color in a room where we are gonna be able to advocate for like people of color. I love to say like birth doulas, people to speak up for Black birthing people. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of work to do and there's a lot of just like years and years that we have to undo. And I think one step forward is like the best way to start. So just like always speaking up about it, even if we're tired. Yeah, Misha.
Thank you for adding that. I definitely encourage people to use their voice in all spaces. And that is, like you said, the first step. Jacqueline, I share a lot of the sentiments. It's like, that's why when I think who was it that brought up the question about the platform, Russell, when he brought up VP Harris, I'm like, love and support her. I feel how I feel. And I'm not thinking about her right now. Right now, I'm thinking about Black Mamas Matter. I'm thinking about Sister Song. I'm thinking about these grassroots people that are going to help my people on the ground get access today, not in 2.5 years down within their term, if they get the term. And I am hoping that I said what I said. I do hope that this person gets in. But I am thinking more about what can happen today in this space to be able to support people versus relying on a system that has let us down so many times. Again, this is not my way of saying that I am against. I'm voting. I'm registered already. I know what I'm doing. But I'll also name that in addition to that, I am also heavily trying to use the own power that I have in spaces and places to be able to advance equity, especially within the healthcare system. Like that's one of the reasons I teach in the health counseling and psychology program. And in our health psychology and promotion class, we are explicitly having these dialogues about the healthcare system. We're talking about the ways training has been inadequate, as well as the implications that came as a result of these sometimes careless practices or physicians, practitioners, clinicians' refusal to ask why in some of these things or in some of these places and spaces, or refusing to kind of go in and do that actual background research, similar to some of the things that Jessica was naming. I don't know, during the civil rights movement or right after the civil rights movement, there was this huge push for basically like sterilization for Black women within these different communities. Like there was this one organization, I think it was called CRACK, and they were like giving Black women who were using drugs or addicted to drugs $200 so they could get a hysterectomy. And it's like, do people know that? Like, are these folks in these medical training programs and those who are learning to be physicians and learning to be clinicians actually learning about the history of the field and the ways that there were so many things that were etched into these journals and to these books that they use as like the guide for the practices, and how a lot of the stuff that was printed in those things didn't take context, space, or time into consideration. So for example, the father of gynecology, who used enslaved women to learn about these different procedures, gynecological procedures that they wanted to do on white women, but did them on Black women to practice with no anesthesia. And then I remember one of them, they ended up saying that a Black woman, she was hypersexual, and that's why the procedure was not successful, but didn't consider the fact that she's enslaved and didn't have autonomy over her body and couldn't say no if a person was trying to violate her sexual citizenship in some way, shape, or form. Folks don't think that deep or go that deep into considering the roots of these different things that we're learning or what we're exploring and then continuing to practice. And so I think one of the biggest things, and I know what I do, like I said, in my role is challenge folks who want to go out in the world and practice or call themselves healthcare providers or caregivers. I'm challenging you to think about these different communities and these different identities and these different folks, and how the way you show up every day to your job impacts their lived experiences and impacts their relationship and their ability or their desire to come back or to talk about what's going on with them in real life, or if they're going to just stay home, or kind of like Jessica said, or like other Black women have done, go and find these own communal spaces where we offer this care to ourselves. But again, even when we have these spaces, we're underfunded. We're self-funded very often, which goes back to put your money where your mouth is and support these other organizations. I feel like that kind of touched on a lot of different things, but to give the narrow focus, one, train the folks, like the lessons you learn, share this with people. Go to schools like Antioch where you end up allowing yourself to get in and come across different professors who are going to challenge the way that you go out into the profession and actually apply this learning. And also, again, put your money where your mouth is and donate to the organizations that are actually doing this work already. And also ask for your doctors to partner with these folks. Like, go to your Kaiser and say like, hey, do y'all have doulas available? No, you know what's wild? If you want to, this is an organization that trains Black doulas, and this could be a potential resource for y'all to pull in because it ends up impacting people's experiences. So use your voice, occupy space, put your money where your mouth is, and then try to change the way professions are trained. And then hopefully over time, it'll just become the new norm.
Thank you so much. There's so many things that you're offering as a way of first just reflecting, but then doing the work. And I appreciate that. And as is our practice, we say goodbye at 5 to some who have to go. And I see that some have already left us. But if you'd like to stick around for a little bit longer and have a messier conversation, we'll get started here right now. We can just continue.
Thank y'all for coming, for those who can't hang on.
So I'm gonna just take a fist load of packets, and when I go in of pamphlets, and when I go into the doctor and be like, you need to read this section. Right here, right here, right here. Because that's what I feel like sometimes. But I just know that there's other avenues that we could be jumping into, and but it's hard to separate it. The way that the system is made to be confusing and difficult to tackle.
Yeah.
On purpose.
I was even going to go in and say, so when I go to places and I'm like getting new healthcare physicians or something like that, I'm very intentional. All of my physicians are either Black or of color, and I'm intentional about that. So like an extra step I go through is like I get my insurance for my job. I try to see who qualify for that. Then I Google them,
Yeah.
their actual facility. Then I call the facility and I ask, is this particular doctor Black or of color? And then I get a lot of pauses. I get a lot of
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes one of my current like doctors, I remember calling and I asked, and they like the receptionist laughed and was like, "Yep, sure is. This is a Black office." And I said, "I'm gonna see you soon."
That's
Thank you.
I know, right?
So yeah,
Oh man.
sometimes even asking those difficult questions are important, because I know I go to facilities where like there aren't any Black, or I don't go, I've seen them when I was looking for my doctor, facilities where there aren't any doctors of color in that space or place. And so it's like, well, is anybody even raising that voice about these different potential experiences that people are having within those healthcare spaces? And I think by putting people in some uncomfortable positions where they're like, man, I had like 7 people call and ask if we had any Black doctors. And when we said no, they decided not to come. And so now it's kind of raising or causing a trend in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, I think that not being afraid to have those hard or difficult conversations or saying those things, like, and because I've been doing it for so many years, I've gotten accustomed to like some of the weird looks I'll get to when I ask, or some of the like, why would you ask that? I don't know. kind of responses. I'm talking to the insurance people. I'm like, is there a filter on here where I could see if we could filter for race for any of the physicians that are in network? No, that doesn't exist. I'll tell you that now, which is, I understand. And at the same time, I also know that I take that extra step to try to be intentional in that way. But then I also think about how just becoming a doctor is difficult, and in and of itself is a privilege for folks being able to financially afford to pursue that profession, being able to make it through the medical racism that you have to endure throughout school, and then actually graduate to go on and practice. So it kind of also limits the amount of physicians of color, or Black physicians specifically, that exist within certain disciplines. And so it's so layered.
Yeah, but we have caucuses that are, even my dad started a caucus for the Black PAs in the 60s. So I know that they're there. We know that they're there. We just need to utilize them more. And there's we as Black people, I know that we need to put that information out there more readily available. There's a Black women's physician website where you can supposedly find anyone in the state, but the amount of women that are registered on the site isn't very many, and they're mostly in the South. So when you go to the West Coast, then it dwindles down to your opportunities to find a physician. So there's different things that, I'm just looking at. I was just curious as to like, the things that I try to, like you, I go out of my way to do it. And so that's why I was asking for suggestions, because it's been 6 months and I've been looking for a Black chick and I can't find one nowhere, no how. And I'm just like, okay, my insurance payments for last year don't amount to anything because I can't find a physician that I feel comfortable with without going through the reproductive process that shouldn't matter. And it makes me think about all the young girls out there that are trying to have these conversations and don't feel comfortable, or they're not getting information that actually applies to them in such a way that they'll continue on and be healthy. And that scares me. So yeah, so thank you for your frankness.
Oh, no problem. I challenge
And for
myself.
throwing the hammer and not hitting the gates. I saw that too. That's cool.
Thank you. Y'all want to keep getting messier?
Go for it.
Jacqueline, LA used to have a very active Black female physicians organization. I don't know what their status is now. because it's been over 10 years since I've connected with them, but they used to be quite active as an organization here in LA. Maybe Dr. Gills might know more, but for a long time, they were quite active here. So that was a great resource, you know, for a lot of people.
I'm not sure if they're still active, but Black Women for Wellness, they have a great resource list and roster. And I think that, and they were already mentioned in our conversation today, I think by Misha, but they can certainly help in that area. And I know a few individual female Black physicians that are connected with the more organizations. So
I'd also ask, like if you can find a Black physician that might not necessarily be in network with your insurance specifically, ask them if they have a friend
Mhm.
or if they are a part of some kind of organization or something like that specifically. Because a lot of organizations have those like smaller committees or something like that within it, or those subgroups, those affinity groups too.
absolutely.
And very often those physicians are a part of that and in their own networks.
That's true.
Too, when you were talking about the insurance, like just how that's just another system that is really failing us and does not provide clear access, and the complexities of figuring out even when to apply for Obamacare, when you can get in there and get access, and what those conditions are. Just navigating that site for myself recently was so confusing. And with all these changes that we are told are being made, it seems that those two are maybe the most important to the insurance industry.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, who can I talk to about this? Because even when you go to certain, not physicians, but like when I'm looking for a physician, there are a lot of people that just are not covered. Like I know one doctor I went to, they were like, the doctor's covered, but the nurse practitioner isn't covered. But you told me I had to see the nurse practitioner. So why would you do that? So even just offering some kind of clarity around what's actually covered and like who could we actually see without sending us through so many hoops, I think is something that's extremely important. But you know, insurance and healthcare is a beast in and of its own. But that's why I don't shy away from saying stuff, because feedback, and that's something I learned from education. You give you want something to change, give your feedback. Even if it's not violent, like they might not care at all. Like I just called, I was trying to help a person get some STI tests. And so I was calling to see like specifically what was covered. And it was like, oh yeah, we do the wide panel test. And I was like, okay, what specific what specific things are you testing for? Like, can you name the ones so I could make sure it's all covered? I also wanted to communicate this to a person, and they were like, I'm not super sure. Let me check. I think it's syphilis. Maybe it's Trich, but like you need to do a blood test for HIV, so it's definitely not that. And I'm like, well, you do blood for syphilis too, so, and for herpes, so it can't test for for that. And so basically the folks who answered the phone were a little uninformed around what they actually were doing or what they actually were covering. And like that was just the answer. And I'm sure some other people who aren't sexologists and who don't study sexuality for a living were like, okay, that's fine. But then in reality, you're giving them gaps of information. And so I definitely shared that. I was like, maybe y'all make a list or something, make a little chart that people could look at so they know exactly what's getting covered. And they may not do anything with that feedback at all, but maybe they will. And at least I know that I was able to plant that seed or put that out there, that like there are some changes that could be made to the healthcare systems and the way you navigate them, because it actually doesn't make sense for you to not know what this test for, especially if you went and asked somebody else.
Yeah, and I think that the financial hole that it can put you in when they bill you separately for all these different providers and you don't know, or your address changes, or they send it to collections immediately before they even talk to you, and how to go back to what you were talking about earlier, Jessica, of all the labor and just the intensity of the workload to access is immense. It's really difficult.
Yeah, I could even before I even got my like full-time job, I remember like it was just so hard like navigating like what does health insurance look like for someone who has like 5,000 part-time jobs and like is barely making rent, you know what I mean? Like Obamacare was even out of reach for me. I think I went like 3 years without seeing a doctor. Like I would like listen, if I was sick, I was like, if I die, I die. Like it's the reality of like healthcare in this country, and also being a Black woman with a Southern grandma who does not trust healthcare. Like I was raised like, listen, ginger ale and aloe and you'll be fine. My grandma like aloe cured my cancer.
Some
Home
Robitussin.
home remedies will cure it. Yeah, I think a lot about how there's even like herbalism for like abortion because like we just don't trust healthcare systems that much. I think that's another like, listen, when I drank that ginger ale, why am I feeling better the next day? So I think it's something there. So I think like another thing can be like, what are the natural ways that we can take care of ourselves? You know what I mean? I think about that a lot. My coworker is doing like a abortion herbalism class. And I'm like, I want to get my hands on that. I want to know, I wanted to know the secret, like the recipes that like my grandma got passed down to her, from when like healthcare wasn't even an option for Black people. How did we take care of ourselves when medicine wasn't there? Obviously, like cancer and stuff, like we can't do nothing about it. They need to get it together and help Black people because like we can be saying something's wrong with us and they don't even believe us. Like I've heard so many stories of like Black women having tumors and all this stuff and they feel something's wrong and they like breast cancer is relevant in my family. And so if I wanted to get like a screening, like what if they're like, girl, no, like you're too young. Like that happened to one of my friends. And so like I think like Misha, like you're a queen, like advocate. Like it's so tiresome for like Black people to just like we always have to speak up for ourselves. But I hate saying it's the only way, like being like, oh, where the Black people at? And then they're sitting there like, where are
Oh,
the
speaking of
people?
Black
Like,
people.
right. Like it literally happened at my job. Like I was like, I remember I was in a meeting. I was like, so we can't say this because what about Black women? Like I can't say that I'm gonna do this regardless of legality. Like I'm gonna get arrested. Like I can't do all that. And like, like you sometimes you can't see outside of your identity. You know what I mean? Like all white doctor's offices and stuff, and you're calling and you're saying, is there a Black person? Is there like a person of color? And they're like, what you mean? That's why I think it's just important. I feel so much safer when it's a Black woman like Misha. Like I grew up in a predominantly white and Hispanic town, so all of my doctors were Black or Hispanic women, so I felt safe. Even coming to Chicago, like the only Black person I have my therapist, I haven't even been to a doctor yet. I'll wait till I go home, because it's just so hard. There's barriers, and I think like things like the like Black women, like Black psychologists, like websites like that is so helpful. And I think just raising awareness are creating websites like that ourselves, like because we can't rely on the institutions that were built out of white supremacy. We have to rely on ourselves. And it sucks that this country and the institutions were built to only serve cis white male. You know what I mean? But child, I've been tired my whole life being a Black woman. So I've been advocating for myself, and I'm gonna keep doing it. Like that's the only way. And I'm doing it. So shit, listen, the slaves, listen, my ancestors, they did it so I could sit and have a cushy remote job and talk back to my grandma when I was mad. Okay. So
Me, I ain't do that yet. I ain't going there.
Oh, I do that and I got whoopings. I learned my lesson. I don't do that no more. But like, the same, I like to think of it like, you know, our ancestors were slaves. Like my grandma like had to drop out of school at 13, and my great grandma had to go through all these things, but they fought for us. Civil rights movement, they fought for us to get to where we are now. And yes, Orange Cheeto Man is trying to revert all that back with that Supreme Court. But we can fight because people change things. You know what I mean? We organized with Rosa Parks. We told her, hey, we know your husband got a car, but go to that go to the front of that bus. Tell them people no. We organized, and we have to do that now. Like, listen, I want my little 2-year-old niece. Well, she's 3 now. Oh my God. I want my little 3-year-old niece to grow up in a world that cherishes and is safe for her as a Black girl. And I want the same for my other nieces and nephews, and I want the same for other Black kids and Hispanic kids and Asian kids and all of that. So we got to do the work, and I'm tired, child, but we got to keep speaking up. That's the only way. I wish I could be passive, but I'm too angry for it. But I think anger is such a good emotion, you know, when it's used in the right way.
I feel that. I wrote a poem.
Yeah.
I think I call it Rage Now, because I was so mad I never titled it. It just was like, I'm so mad at America right now. And so I try to let my rage out in those ways, but also still motivate myself to go and be active in spaces and be brave. Like you said, I'm gonna have these conversations and not both of us uncomfortable. Look.
Right. That's why we having this conversation. I love it. Conversations. I think of James Baldwin. He's like, to know about the state of the world is to be angry all the time. And I'm like, dang, I've been angry since I was 15. But okay, like, okay, at least I'm not sitting down, like accepting my situation. You know what I mean? Like I'm a fight. I'll be at my job fighting them people. And I love the people I work with, but anytime I'm like, this is this is wrong. This. You know, you have to be the voice sometimes. We have to rely on ourselves in community.
I also think that there's space for other people to share the load too. Like a lot of the things that we talked about today, like these are things we do, these are things Black women do, Black people do to go the extra mile to try to find ourselves within a white supremacist society that centers that dominant voice. And we don't always have to be that. Like if you're a non-Black person and you go into a space and you look around and you're like, man, y'all don't have any Black physicians on this team? Nobody? Ask. It's not like I don't have to be the only one to ask. You notice it, you tell them. Say something about it. Same thing for like even suggesting like doulas or other healthcare professionals that can be in these other spaces and places that align with Indigenous Black practices, or different ways that we'll be able to integrate ourselves. Well, I don't want to say integration, because integration, you really need to throw it away and start it all over again. But for us to truly be able to call ourselves pursuing equity in some way, shape, or form, you can't just be relying on the Black women and the Black people to use our voices. Use the power and the privilege that you have just inherently because of how you navigate society as a person. And it can be as a cisgender person, it could be a heterosexual person, it could be a white person, it could be an able-bodied person. Go into these spaces and name the injustices, the discrepancies, the unnecessary obstacles that are in place for people that might not necessarily share the same identities that you do. I was talking to my sister earlier today, and she works at like the front desk of at a healthcare facility, and this a trans person came into the facility, and like they didn't have anywhere on their paperwork for the trans person to put their preferred name versus their dead name. And so initially my sister, because shout out to my sister, was like, noticed that the person kind of cringed when she used their dead name to ask if that was them. And so then she asked the person like, is there another name you would like me to call you or anything like that? And so then the person was like, yes, please call me this, or I prefer to go by this. And so then my sister put a note in, sent it to the back, and was like, everybody, this is that person's name. She was telling me how that person was like so happy that everybody in the back office were like referring to them the way that they want to be referred to as. And like when they came back for follow-up from their procedure, how they felt good and they felt affirmed and felt comfortable because they didn't have to deal with these unnecessary obstacles due to ignorances and systems that we won't change because we don't never question why we do things the way we do things. We just very often do things. And so I think even going into those spaces and being advocates for folks, if you're not a part of that community, but right is right, wrong is wrong, in some spaces and places, it's clear to see. And it doesn't hurt you to refer to a person the way that they want to be referred to as, or to ask this question, or, you know, to name that this creates barriers from people being able to feel comfortable or feel like they could actually be supported within this environment. And again, all of it is related to and connected to reproductive justice because we are individuals who are deciding how we're going to be able to lean into our body autonomy. And if we're going into these healthcare facilities to get care, to hopefully be healthy and well, that ends up impacting the way that we're able to parent too.
That was beautiful. I love that. I love how you said like it's not just on the like marginalized person to speak up on themselves. It's also up to their community and the people around them, especially if you have more like privileges, you know. Yeah, I think about that a lot. I think of like how tiring it must be to be even like a Black trans person or a trans person or like a Black woman or like just anyone, you know what I mean, that has a marginalized identity, and always like the toll on your mental health to always have to speak up for yourself. And just like that small thing of being like, no, what is your preferred name? Like, which is what is your name? Who are you? You know what I mean? Like, just that was something to make that person's day. You know what I mean? And like, I even think like being in all white spaces, like I think one of the most like amazing experiences I've ever had, like was like being in London and studying abroad. And we saw this Black show and I was the only Black person in class. And I just remember just like everyone looked at me to talk about everything. And I remember one of my friends, and she was white, and she was just like, why y'all keep looking at Jessica? Y'all can't talk about race yourselves. And I was like, oh, thank God I didn't have to say it. You know what I mean? And it just lifted the weight and it called them out. You know what I mean? It's just so important for community care to rely on like the people around us to carry that weight. I think that was very important to talk about, Misha. Yeah.
No problem. Thank you, Jessica. This has been a really great conversation. And not just Jessica, but everybody else who shared thoughts, perspectives, questions, comments. It has truly been a pleasure. It's been a joy for my Monday night. I like getting messy.
Yeah, Sam, thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Misha. Like, it was a joy, like, hearing you. I learned so much just from you. Like, you are so freaking smart. And now I want to go get me a master's and go back to school so I can be as smart as you.
Thank you. Don't do it. Unless you need to for your job progression.
You know how Black women are. Once we board, we get a degree.
You might let me go back. But yeah, no, I'll give you
That's not
resources.
funny.
You read, save that money. I'll give you everything to learn about.
If you do it, come to Antioch.
All right.